Get down in the car, one time give it all. Bust it open hard, let me see you drop. Get down in the car, one time give it all. Bust it open hard, let me see you drop.
Music licensing reimagined.
I fucked up this Russell, yeah, we hustle, what the
Oh my.
I fucked up this Russell, yeah, we hustle, what the
Oh my.
What is my guys, know that they fly, know that they ride or die.
Hey, good morning. This is Jared and Nate over at eCARRIERCHECK. We're excited to be here. We got a great guest on today, and we're going to get some heavy insights here from Shaggy. But before we get into Shaggy and really what's going on in today's world, Nate, tell me about your week, man. How was your week?
Yeah, it's honestly been a good week. I'm super glad. Shaggy answered my text the other day saying, "Yeah, I'll jump on." I know Shaggy, you'll obviously provide a lot of value today, but a lot of the things I've seemed to be hearing this week was trying to find customers, trying to actually try to move a load, and how to get to that point.
Yeah.
Or even just trying to find a carrier with the right equipment.
Yeah.
I was helping a broker out yesterday trying to find a carrier with a stretch, and a dispatcher fell off and didn't say what she was going to, or didn't bring in the right trailer, right? So that was kind of some stuff I dealt with this week. But yeah, here we are. So I'm ready to hear what Shaggy has to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I had to say, I had the opportunity to make some calls. What's up, Brian? It's good to see you, man.
Yeah.
Well, Tire Killer's on. I love that.
Yeah.
But I hear time and time again here, Shaggy. It's so tough to get into your shippers. It's so tough to get new clients.
Yeah.
Everybody's making 5 times more calls. What does it look like right now, Shaggy? How are people finding clients, and how are they differentiating themselves from the other people?
But it's crazy. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. It's a dog eat dog world, and people are calling their clients and everything.
Yeah, so it's crazy because when you come for me, with me transitioning from doing all those webinars we used to do to now it's all one-on-one base. We have our brokerage running, we just do the most horrible loads ever. We just move containers with hazmat, with fireworks from because we're starting out with credit like the rest of them. So it's you're working to get the big one, but you're getting all these little ones that are like those. You either make money or you're waiting to lose all your money. You're like, whoa, I'm gonna make $2,000 off a load. Next thing you know, it's sitting in a container place waiting for a crane to show up, and the guy's being a dick trying to steal your product off your trailer, and you're like, holy cow, But it's you ever notice every time we're in this era over the last 18 years, it's 3 cycles, right? We call it disaster or go rush, where the freight becomes more volume than trucks. And then you got the second stage. It's always the second year, where the big brokers or brokers that know what they're doing, right? They have the 30 people in the office or 149 people in there and are banging out calls. They're going to TIA. They're doing the meetings. They're using technology. They come in, and those are the ones that hire when it's big and fire when it's not, right? DAT, right? And then you get to this third stage is when everybody's credit cards are gone. Their company trucks can't make it off the rates. Their owner-operators leased to a carrier that didn't do their work, or they're a company, or they're a one-truck authority that use your stuff, and they're looking at everything: diesel prices, freight, the load board, my insurance. My wife just got her hair done, and it cost $45. I didn't have. You know what I mean? All these things, everything counts because we're in the third stage, and the third stage is where people start canceling loads for $100 more.
Yeah.
They start they chasing freights because they're so hungry to the wrong area and they're sitting. All these things that are happening while you still see ads. And then the customers get to a point where the volume's not high. Steel's at 75%. Trees still aren't coming in for the lumber yards. All these things are going on. And we have all this, but it's 50% are working and growing, and 50% are sitting here with their fingers stuck up their nose going, man, I really should have had a business plan before I started. I don't know why I'm fucked up right now. You know what I mean? And that's what we're running into every day. And it's kind of weird because the problem isn't the customers. The problem is anybody 25 trucks or less either don't know what a brokerage is about or what to do with the customers, even if they got an opportunity to get them. And the brokers are either one way or they don't know how to be like. It's kind of like what I've been teaching the last thing. It's kind of like we're in a crossroads with our business right now, and we're at this 30-day window where we either at the beginning and we're going in, or we're already in and we need to go backwards and look at the why all over again. And what we get confused at, there's 3 parts to the why is what I've been teaching now. The middle why is dispatching, not dispatching service. Dispatching service is a part of it, but that's the problem when you become a customer. Is if you're a carrier and you walk into a customer, or you're in the receiver dock and he offers you the freight, or you got that broker on the phone that's saying, "Hi, Jared, my name's Shaggy, and I got a load I'm quoting right down the street from your house. Matter of fact, it's this steel company. They're a mom and pop company, and they, you know, they're telling you everything right to your face, and you're too stupid to know what to do next with it because you don't have eCARRIERCHECK, or you don't know about Zoom info, or they don't watch your weekly videos where you tell them exactly what to do with it. They don't know how to make the second call. This is the problem that's in the industry that we keep revolving. I try to come up with new information when I do my videos every week, but based off the calls that we're getting through our compliance company, the new authorities, and the people that are hurting, they still don't have no plan. They don't know what to do with the customers. And the brokers thought they were just going to throw it on the load boards with no credit. And they don't have no clue about claims liability or controlling the freight or getting the guys back to work for them. It's just sold one way, and they understand why they're having problems. That's why PFA is losing so many bonds. You know what I mean? On a monthly basis. And it's just like this revolving door where every week we're doing the same thing. It's like you get an authority, you outsource your stuff, you don't build no product, you don't have no 7-day plan, you don't understand your cost. And what I see is, whether you're a broker or not, you really got to focus on your story. Like, why am I becoming a broker? Why am I becoming a trucking company? Number one, who's going to help me with this process? Am I just going to outsource it all and drive a truck? Or am I going to use my wife or my kids or my cousin Jimmy? And we're going to do what? And then what parts do we need to concentrate on? And then the third part is understanding cost or your commodity. Both of these are the same for the broker. What kind of freight or trailers or commodity niche am I going to go after? And then what area am I going to make this money to do it every week? Or am I just going to do it today and tomorrow? Is that my business plan? That's what you hear all the time. Well, we got this, we got that. Well, let's just go with it. Right?
Yeah.
Go ahead. You jump in.
It's so funny you say this. Honestly, we talk to so many brokers, and we talk to a lot of carriers, and I really truly think that they need to have, how do I win today? How do I win this week? Right. But you got to have that, that extra layer on there and go, how do I win in the next 90 days? Because there's bigger things that you have to tackle. And then I got to win today. I need a load, but you know what? I need to get some direct, customers, or I need to get some direct brokers, or depending on what you're looking at, from a broker standpoint, say, hey, these bigger fish are going to take longer. I need to keep going with some of these smaller guys, but I got to keep grinding on that big fish. It's so interesting you say that. How many people come to you? And I could ask Nate the same question. How many people come to you and then don't have a plan?
90% of them, it's today and tomorrow, like everybody. And then when you're going back to them, you're like, then you go back. So they're already they're a dispatching service, they're a broker, and they're figuring out they should have understood the trucks. And then,
sorry, go ahead.
I want the questions here in a second. We love questions. You guys want to pour in some questions with me on about the trucking, brokerage, and all this stuff? Because here's the problem. Then they want to go back, and you're like, okay, so let's go back. So why are you running everywhere? Why aren't you running local, dedicated, and regional and servicing your own backyard? What are you trying to save the freaking world? You like the Jesus? You mean what are you? You know what I mean? And then the other part, like with us, I found out because I've always worked with Corey and all these other people with their brokerages, Marie and all them. So now that I'm running Shaggy's Logistics, right, with Isaiah and Dan's probably on here bouncing around somewhere because he loves your show. He's always on here. And so we found out that once you build people that move the freight, so like we've got loads, 5 here, 2 there, 3 over here. We moved some buffet tables for a friend of mine from Massachusetts down here. We moved a tractor. We're moving more and more. And it's really crazy. Well, the more one and done loads is harder to move than volume. Volume I can sell because I can find the carrier and put them on it all the time. And they'll do it because they want. One and dones or smaller group projects are harder to sell, especially if they're not in the same place. So it's funny because I'm doing my own brokerage and I'm teaching all this stuff. And now I look at Dan and Isaiah and I watch them move some of the craziest stuff to make money. And I'm like, so they've found the carriers, they've negotiated the rates, they've done the process, they've tracked and traced the guy, they've sat like this at night going, hope I don't get a call. It's going, you know what I mean? Like they're all excited, the real work involved, right? And then the part, so now what we're doing over our place is I'm finding students that I had in my group that 2 of them own trucking companies and they're trying to do their own sales. And the other 2 are just people that want to sell. And I'm bringing them in with William, and all those guys that are doing is kind of doing what you teach. They're looking at the trailers, looking at the commodities. They're finding who the owner is, and they're playing Sherlock Holmes. And we're getting 4 people in there now because I have Isaiah Sedan that can move the freight. So now I'm doing like your boy Charles and Chase. They got the people to sell the freight and the people to move the freight. You don't have both departments, it doesn't work. And I'm learning more because I'm actually doing, instead of helping everybody else doing it, we're doing our own piece while I'm doing all this consulting and compliance. So now I got to get 4 people in there that are just selling the loads and bringing the RFPs to Isaiah and Dan. Because the hardest problem, you guys keep thinking about sales. Sales is not the hardest problem, guys. Moving that shit and getting it there and getting the carriers back and getting that paperwork in to get paid. And really, you don't want to put freight on the load boards. If you can't use eCarrier, we find all our carriers on eCARRIERCHECK and customers too.
That's convenient.
Yeah, because if I go to DAT or Truck Stopper 123, I'm getting frauded on.
Yeah, it's
90%
really,
are fraud.
yeah. The water coming in is really, really dirty right now. And if depending on which stream you're wanting to pick of finding carriers, finding those people, the water stream is really challenging right now.
I'll give you another thing. I'm telling you, if you guys don't have a card like this where you have your businesses on it, where you're wearing multiple hats, right? So I even if I go to my customers, I still tell them that I have logistics, compliance, and all these other companies on the back of my card because we want to keep our carriers legit. And we're going in with these. These are all my salespeople's cards we built. It says our other companies on the back and has their thing. And I'm telling you, with the customers, if you haven't heard it, they don't want to answer emails right now. They're getting thousands of them, and half of them are from not here. And they're not answering calls because half still aren't there and they're working at home, and the other half are there, and they all have problems. They want to see people in person. I'm getting more calls that carriers are calling me where customers are offering them freight right now because of the service isn't there. I don't care. If you're a brokerage without trucks, you're relying on carriers, and I see the service not being there because it's flipped back to the 3rd stage where customers will give the big carriers the opportunity, but they're not going to give it if a carrier don't know what to do with it.
Yeah. We boy, I can't disagree with you more.
Don't you agree?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, it's just
you can sell all day long, but how many 3-truck fucking trucking companies call them all day long to tell them how they're going to save their world? And you wonder why you're not getting in. You can't. I've been teaching in my classes real quick, not to be a broker, but the minute that you add a second truck, you're an investor. You're a business person when you have 1 truck. You're an investor when you add 2 or 3 trucks. And if you don't know, if you think your business plan is going to rely on brokers lowly and you're not going to become a broker to control other carriers and not keep your freight on the thing and service a customer, then you get what you deserve. You're a 1-truck guy feeding off load boards and you're going to be bitching and crying. And that's what you get.
Yeah. It's tough to keep up with the costs that are out there, the diesel prices, things like that. It's just impossible to really get the rates you deserve or need in order to keep things going. Shaggy, we got a few questions coming in. Let's talk
to them. Yeah, let's get some questions. I love questions.
Raji, one of my favorites, by the way. Oh, I can't push the button here. There we go. Raji always has good questions. He says, when I hear, that when quoting call or 3 or 4 more carriers, where do I find these carriers? Close to the pickup location or from a puff of air? I can let Shaggy take a stab at this real quick.
Like he's talking about finding carriers where the shipper or receiver is, right?
Right.
See, sometimes the problem right now isn't finding the carriers because, number one, I found out when you're making the calls to carriers, if you don't at least know the name of the customer you're going to be working with and have a lane decided when you call them, they're not going to work with you. They don't even give you the time of day. We're so lost in communication with carriers. And if you're a new broker starting out, And you got to think about it. Are you a one-way broker where everything you're selling at that carrier has no relationship? You're just selling one load, give me a rate, and that's it? And you're hoping he's there when he's back? Or are you building a relationship and understanding what kind of carrier this is? Because there's a difference. Some carriers are one and done and they chase everything. You got to understand they never go home on weekends. They don't have no product. Other carriers may have, and they all have different kinds of equipment. Company drivers, owner operators, they drive. But just because a guy runs the Midwest doesn't mean he knows what he's doing. He's isolated to an area, but he still goes somewhere else every time. So when you're bidding freight, you got to identify, are these carriers that want a relationship with me to sell for them because they can't sell and they want volume? Or are you just selling it one way? Don't you agree?
Yeah.
100%. And to add to this, I think that answers our question with Ed Burns. How do you add value? How do I provide or bring value? Everything you just said, Shaggy, that's bringing value.
Yeah, if you're a one and done guy and you don't understand trucking and dispatching, then that's what you get. If you understand how to use other brokers, when you're new and you're starting out, you almost have to be the guy that calls up Jared and you actually looked up their MC number before they off eCARRIERCHECK. You found out where they run on that map because it'll show you on the map when you're looking, guys. If they've been in business longer than 30, 40, 50 days, it's going to show you inspections. And if they don't have inspections, you probably should be really thinking about using them in the first place because they're probably, number one, not going to like your credit. Number two, they're going to jack you for something. And probably number three. But when you see they're freight chasing, we could go 5, 6, and 7 too. But if they're if they're patterns to a certain region and they're either on the receiver end or the delivery end, that's huge. But even though they have a pattern area, you got to see, are they looking for volume or is it one and done? That's the biggest thing. Because if the load's one and done, you're going to get what you deserve if you can't give them a backhaul, to a point, or kind of help them in that concept. If the customer is having more volume, then you're looking to build relationships with those guys in that pattern, and you want them to do it more than one. But the problem that most new brokers are still running into, because like we just did 2 loads with these containers and we didn't put them on the boards. Dan's so smart. He called Landstar and went through Inway, not the double broker inside. And we had to prepay the whole $10,000 up front on both containers cash. How many people can do that to get a big carrier? So now when you're a little guy, you're dependent on that relationship of getting them back. So if you don't understand the difference between freight chasing and running regional, and that's going to dictate the rate that you're getting from that carrier, I guarantee it. Because if you call the one-way guy, he's going to be at $3 to $5 a mile. You call the guy that's doing it all the time, he's going to be at the market rate of, depending on what the type of freight, guys. Don't hold me to it, like RGN, step deck, hazmat. It's all different, right? But depending on the type of the freight, everybody wants consistency. That's what we're looking for. Volume, add more trucks, grow our network with relationships. Figure out who you're going to be, right?
I definitely think, obviously a couple things, Raji, just for the sake of tangible, you can get on eCARRIERCHECK, find carriers that are running those lanes, buy equipment, so that's something I would do. I would always look for carriers that are running the opposite side of things. Maybe you can get them in a backhaul situation. But I think Ed Burns asked, how do you bring value? And you kind of hit it on the head here, Shaggy.
But are we talking about a brokerage right now or trucking company?
Just in general.
If you're not the salesperson doing what the carriers can't do, why would they keep you around? Remember, because there's 3 kinds of brokers, right? We both agree. And this is where people get confused because you think the first 2 are your friends. They're not. Swan is your friend. They're your friend because those guys that come on and do it, their whole goal is to put you on their freight and move you as many times as you can so they don't have to find somebody else and go get more freight.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, especially right now, Ed asks, how do you bring value? And I think it all comes down to relationships. A lot of things that this is just human nature. You focus on things that you don't have, right? But right now, it's all about taking the time to focus on the relationships you do have.
That's what I was getting at. They don't do the work though. All these guys, the new ones come in and we go through those 5.5s and now we're like, okay, so you got your location of Columbus, Ohio, and you're doing 150-mile radius. Now you're going from Columbus to Cleveland, Columbus to Nashville, Columbus to Charlotte, Columbus to Chicago. And they're like, well, where are we going? Specifically to those places. And then you turn your ass and go right back. And it's like, wow. And you build these routes and you're like, okay, so now the question is, If I was a broker that Jared, the customer, and Nate hired to find carriers, or if I was the customer looking directly for carriers, how the hell would I find you? And if I was looking for you or you're in my system, besides today and tomorrow, how would I know what you want, and how often are you telling me exactly what you need, where you need it?
Yeah, and I think being direct right now is even more important. There's no reason. There's no reason to be fluffed. You just get up there and tell them exactly what you need. Be proactive.
But I don't want to. I just want to use the load board and let it do it for me, and then I want to go bitch about it.
I know it's the easiest thing. Obviously, humans always go to the kind of the river effect where you're just kind of flowing in any which direction they want to. But
listen, you go to your website, eCARRIERCHECK, you put 25 of the brokers that you actually find that know how to hold a conversation that want to sell for you in a list to have they have your freight or don't. You send them out an email 3 or 4 times a day, let them know what you're having, because they specifically want what you want. Everybody else is on the table to steal their freight for your company if you knew what to do with it.
Yeah. We have another question here, Shaggy. It says, and I think we broke down a little bit of this, but go to the one where it's he's asking 5 main things needed to get your brokerage up and running. We've hit on a few of these things, Shaggy, but give us a couple here.
Okay.
Because it's important.
Yeah. So what I think about this, right? Number one, same story. Why are you becoming a broker?
Yeah.
Where are you located? Give me 50 carriers that are located either where your customers pick up or where they deliver that you've called and asked them what problems they're having getting customers and why they don't have them. And then you ask them that if you found the customers they needed, would they be your assets? Number two, because everybody does it backwards. Then you got to go get the customers, but you got to be, I'm so tired of brokers calling me and they're calling me and they're like, man, we ain't got no ass hats. I'm like, what the fuck's an ass hat? You know what I mean? Like assets. That's what they call it, trucking companies. I'm like, well, you're a broker. You either got trucks or you don't. You got to go get trucks. Well, we're just going to throw it on a load board, but you ain't got no credit. You're not going to have credit until 5 broker carriers approve you in factory. And in some of those places, you're going to have to prepay OTR and RTS to them just to give you credit, and you don't have no money in the bank. So 90% of the customers you call, unless you know what you're doing, are going to ask for ass hats. You know what I mean? Those things you're talking about. And it's so, what the first thing I do with brokers that are new is I teach them how to use the load boards in your software just to spend time calling other brokers acting like a carrier so they learn the lingo. They don't even do that. It's like just call 100 brokers and jack them for their rates and ask them where their commodities are moving. Because obviously they're working with customers that you aren't.
Yeah.
Find out your area with your type of equipment, what's moving, right? And then next thing you do, of course, we always talk about the 5 5s, right? If you don't know who they are, how big they are, if they work with brokers and carriers, how the freight gets loaded on the trailers, how it comes in and where it goes, and you don't have carriers lined up to haul it for you in those problem lanes, then what the hell are you doing in the first place? What do you think? Jared's going to take the time out of his day between 1,000 phone calls and explain it to you himself? I mean, come on. See, this is the problem. We keep coming. We just want to drive the truck. We want the freight to fall in our lap when we call, and the carriers just to take it. And we call that business.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think, something really, I think that hints Mad Max, and there's some other aspects here.
Obviously, awesome.
Yeah, I like that. You obviously got to focus on credit and things like that. But here's for me, the number one thing you need to do is, if I'm going to go learn Spanish, the best thing to do is to go live in a house that's speaking Spanish. It's not listening to it on my phone and trying to go through those things. You've got to immerse yourself in the industry. And you can immerse yourself by these phone calls Shaggy's talking about, by joining groups, by getting on our platform. We really you've got to immerse yourself in saying the right lingo.
You know what it's like whenever you take a new carrier or a new broker and you're like, hey, there's 5 regions in the United States. Each region has different seasons, but some don't have none. Some don't change in those 5 regions. Some are dictated. Some are dictated by seasons, and some products aren't. And all that freight flows in a different way. how the fuck does that move? Excuse my language. Trying to be good about stuff. They're like, I don't know. We didn't learn that in Broker 101. We're just supposed to call. I mean, how do other carriers and what do those carriers charge to move freight for customers you're going to have? How does the lingo grow? How does it work? So then you're like, so then you make, like, as a carrier, you make all the calls to places you don't even want to run. It just identifies that you don't want to do that because when you go out there and you post yourself 60 days at a time, telling people you have trucks that you really don't have to get freight that they have, you need, but no one wants to do that, right? Why would we work ahead if we don't have the trucks? That would be stupid. Why would we call carriers that you already know it? If we called 100 carriers on your platform that have 25 trucks or less, tell me of them that have a successful brokerage or even know how to sell.
Right.
Seriously. But isn't what a broker is? You're a salesperson?
Yeah.
Or a dispatcher, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks for the questions. You guys are awesome. Keep the questions coming. We love to go through these and help you guys as much as we can. We have a young lady here, or Ernest Hansen. Sorry, it's not a young lady. Owner operator is still profiting, or is leasing to a company better?
Want me to comment on that one too while we're at it? Okay, they're both screwed. You're both screwed because if you lease onto a company, if you get customers, what are you going to do with them? Unless you got your friend Jared that's going to let you get the customers while you're leased onto that company and then give them to him and he'll willingly pay you a percentage for all the freight he moves that you got him, right? Otherwise, you're not going to do anything with it. And then when you have one truck leased on or a one truck authority right now, if you break down, where are you going to get the money from? If you have a bad week where you lose $1,400 one day or twice and it messes up your 7-day plan and you're behind because your paycheck, everything else got paid, you did it. Where do you get money from? So you want to ask, is it different being a one truck authority or an owner operator on? You still don't have no help. What? It's on my bad. I lied. When you break down, they're going to put you in debt. Oh yeah, because you can borrow money from them. Oh, I got you. So once you still owe them, where do you get diversity from? You know what I mean, Jared?
Yeah, absolutely.
Isn't that true? You hear it every day, right? It's just like when you got two even the minute that you add a company truck, why didn't you get Jared's software and I'm just promoting it, right? A little bit. You know what I mean? And so, but I use it every day and you guys can come see me. My whole team literally uses it. Everybody has it. I think a couple of them use my account more than they should, but we do. We use it every day. But anyways, so, but it's the same way with these guys out here right now that are out here that keep calling me because they have one truck they drive. This is a lot of your followers. And then there's two company trucks, right? Or 3. They got up to 5 in the Gold Rush. And now all they're doing is slaving themselves over the trucks that are sitting, the trucks that aren't running, the drivers that aren't working. They have nowhere to go because they have no plan. They have no brokerage to service the customers, even if they go in. Most of these guys don't even know what to do with it, and they've already built it in their head that they won't work with them. They got it so built against them that we can't work ahead. We can't network ahead with trucks we don't have. But you guys do. Hell, you sell trucks you don't have all day long as a broker.
Honestly, yeah.
I know, right? I mean, I got a carrier base of 3,000 carriers in my packet, which equals to 20,000 trucks. Well, which one of those trucks are right here where we need it now? I haven't found out yet. I got to go call them. But we got them now. I'm telling you.
We got them. Yeah, I think, from an owner operator is still profiting or leasing. Boy, I tell you what, they're both a tough road. If there's breakdowns, breakdowns or mechanical issues.
I would definitely be an owner operator before I'm a one truck authority.
I'm not going to disagree. Yeah, I would agree completely. So, good question. Tire Killer brings up an interesting point, and coming from a broker standpoint, I've been in this chair. We've hired so many good carriers. The brokerage that I used to, be directly related with, it was always focused on find the carriers that can do the work, give good service, build the relationships. And they really
Wait. Was it the brokerage you work for? Was it finding carriers or putting loads on the load boards?
It was before, when I first started, before eCARRIERCHECK, we would just post and just, you didn't have to post and pray. It was before 2020. It was insane. I could love it. Just post, make some cash. We all move on. then things got tough, right? Economics changed, and we were like, we need a better way to
What are you
source
talking about? Double brokering and co-brokering and shitty stuff out there with no plan that ruins your loads, jeopardizes your customers.
Exactly. So we built eCARRIERCHECK. We test it for this year. And honestly, I have changed my entire focus on we need to build relationships. We need to build, carriers. But this is probably one of the more interesting things Brian brings up is I feel like brokers should have circles set up with carriers back to the house instead of just getting product moved.
Two ways.
It is so tough to find that backhaul. But if you put some effort in there and that carrier's network.
Is it really tough, Jared, or is it what you said the first place? Big brokers, once they find the niche and know how to use the stuff, they have the credit. They don't have to work as hard?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, because we already said it. If you take 100 carriers and you ask them what they would do with customers if they got one, they don't know. They can argue with us on this point all they want. You can't even go to a family reunion or get along with your own fucking family, let alone get along with the 14 carriers in line with you next to you getting loaded right now. So what are you going to do? Put it on low board?
Right.
We explain this. Now, I find more if I call 20 brokers at a training class on the DAT right now, maybe 2 of them speak truckingese.
Yeah. I would agree.
that when you're like, hey man, Jared, I was calling because I noticed you have a lane from Chattanooga going to Omaha, and it looks like I've seen more than one. Do you guys have that in volume, or do you guys just have one? Because I'm really like trying to build a relationship with you and get people to sell for me at work. And then you have that conversation, and the guy goes, really? Like, man, I didn't know people talk like that no more. It's like we're doing this every day in calls to brokers. It's like Jared's like, wow, you mean we really have a communication? You want to do more than just get this load jacked before it actually, so you'd like for me to get you to our sales department where we have the dedicated lanes past that call? I'd help you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how it happens.
Yeah, no, it definitely doesn't. I can feel you, Brian. I mean, that a lot of brokers don't have the second step to the puzzle. I know, like, for instance, Convoy. I know Convoy and Dad have made the news this week. They made the news with Convoy, winning some of this argument that Dad, didn't have the ability to, I think it was a privacy thing, something like that. But
the Dad's a piece of shit.
Well, I mean, they're fighting this fight, but Convoy is
shouldn't be fighting this fight. I mean, their services already sucked. They outsourced it. Now their customer service is like, I'd rather stick my ass upside down in a hole and talk to myself in a tunnel all day long. You know what I mean?
But Convoy's trying to do what Tire Killer's talking about is, hey, you're getting me from A to B. Can you get me back from B to C or C to D? And there's something to be said about that. It's just the industry is so fragmented; it can be challenging.
They're not going to do it because you can't. The Convoy's problem is they have no customer freaking service. They're like that. So I don't know why they're picking on DAT.
I think I'll have to see if we can post it. We'll post the article in the notes, the show notes here.
I seen it pop up the other day. Whenever it popped up, like
it's kind of interesting. People don't mind relationship. That is what's wrong with they are worried about their pockets. Yeah, you always wonder, like, well, how's this going to affect me? You know what I mean? Like, that's your first question, on anything.
What does it say? People don't build relationships. They're always worried about their pocket. No, they're not. The one person at the top's worried about their pocket. Those are all account reps. Because if you call a relationship broker that has freight going from Indy to St. Louis all the time, all that guy cares about is making his money off the top and moving as many of those loads as he can with the same guy because he doesn't want to put a new person on it to jeopardize his customer. You want to bet? Is that not true?
That's absolutely true. Absolutely true.
I mean, if you do more volume, you really want to sell rates for the cheapest dollar. That's not fun.
Well, and you kind of hit it on the head earlier. Where are we at with how people react? And that $100, I'm going to sell you out for $100 situation. We're in that. I mean, it's
the third stage because that's why customers are talking to carriers because the second year we had money still because we saved a little from when we were doing it. We grew like crazy. Well, that money's gone. That's why the credit card, if Jared gets a picture of it, credit cards are like that now. Everybody's maxed out. No one can even pay to get I charge $100 an hour. In like 2 or 3 hours of time with me, I could change a company around in a few minutes. The problem is they just want fixed. They don't want to do the work.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
Don't you run into it? It's like,
Yeah.
have you done demos where the same guys come back 3 times? It's like, well, you only got 5 more added to your spreadsheet. Like, how the fuck are you making calls? You ain't got nothing on your spreadsheet. Your email list isn't even being followed up. I mean, just because you're sitting in here looking like you're researching and you did 10 calls a week, that ain't doing it. My guy Williams out there making, if he doesn't send out 25 shipper packets out a day, he's pissed.
Yeah. Yeah. You said something, we'll pivot here for a sec. You said something earlier that I thought was kind of interesting, and you were talking about your business card. You know, Nate and I obviously had the chance to go to a conference earlier this year. So did you. You were at the Mid-America. How important is it to build relationships in person, or, you know, at that point where you, instead of over the phone, been used to Zooms and all this stuff, you know, having a physical aspect of things?
I think right now, 100%, guys, if you're not telling people to go out and visit, you're not getting anywhere. And it's the same thing when you go visit, right? If you walk in, you're like, hi, my name's Jared, you know, or Shaggy, man. And I was stopping by, you know, and I just wanted to, I see you got flatbeds out back. You guys work with flatbeds, you know what I'm saying? Come on, you know that, right? You know,
Exactly.
even when we did calls with Dana, you know, you might get lucky and talk to the gatekeeper about floating docks, but you better go do some research like Dana, how those floating dock works, what kind of step decks you're putting on, how those projects got to get. Do you have guys that are going to sit and wait for them to take those projects off? Not everybody's going to do that because half of us are worth $1 million. Remember?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, Nate, you can answer this one here. Nate, obviously we spent a lot of time networking, really building that up. How more, you know, engaged are people now that you've met them in person, now that you've seen them, you talked to them, you drank a beer with them or whatever, you broke some bread with them? How more engaged are people once you've met them in person?
Yeah, it's almost like you're breaking that ice with them. You know what I mean? So like, we still talk with people that we met at TIA in person, right? I mean, there's probably one on the call today just watching us, but and Frank's on today too, so that's cool.
Frank's the man. Hey, Frank's the man. He should have been on here with us. You check out that. Frank's always said since day one, you know, I take it to granted. Just like I'm not walking in a shipper with this, but I will walk in with this, right? And I won't walk in my hats. I won't walk in with this, but I can tell you I'll at least put on shoes, slacks, and my yellow shirt, right? I'm going to look a little decent, but I'm still not going to change the way I talk. And I'm still not gonna say I won't talk like I cuss. I won't slip a F-bomb. Because as soon as that shipper guy I'm talking to slips a cuss word or says anything with slang, my ass is changing too. But if he sits like he's a accountant with something stuck up his ass cheeks and he's like this the whole time, I'm probably gonna stay the same way. Everybody's like, it's called chameleoning, right? And so I believe in being able to understand the 5 5s of the customer and be able to go in person. Like for me, I've been in trucking forever. So like if I go to a customer, I pull up in my Scooby-Doo car and I look outside, there's no security and there's a big shipping sign right there. And I got the front door. I mean, I've already delivered loads forever. This is what pisses me off, right? So all these trucking companies are like, man, I'm really scared to do sales calls and stuff. You're a trucker. You walk in shipping and receiving doors talking to the same people every day, but you can't do it as a salesperson. Are you guys drunk? You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? So I think if you understand the trailer sitting in the parking lot, if you understand to be able to pay attention to observe live load, you understand the commodities and kind of where they run, that's enough of information that if you can understand those 3 before you get to the guy, and you're in there because you're Sherlock Holmes in anyways. You teach this all the time. If you have to go there 3 times to get there, hell, Don went to that one place and the guy was on vacation. The security guy was supposed to be the most badass guy in the world. She sat outside talking to the guy like 45 minutes, and the dude gave her a tour of the place. Now he's sick and they're friends on speed dial because he's single, and she's taking him chicken noodle soup. Security guy.
Exactly.
How do you do that from the phone?
Yeah, you can't. I think sales is tough enough, whether it's in person or over the phone. But in person,
it's all of it.
It's going to speed up things considerably. It may still take you 3 or 4 calls or walk-ins in person, but it may take 10 to 15 on the phone
just to get to an appointment.
Yeah.
Or the knowledge, or the lady that's the gatekeeper to answer the phone that they call. I don't like the word gatekeepers. I think that's the stupidest shit ever. But the lady that answers the phone that can give you all the information, or the accounting or whatever, they're the ones that you need to find out when they're there or who you need to see so you can go there. The coolest story I ever had was that one guy that came to my boot camp in Orlando, and on Saturday, he didn't even come back to class. I was like, where'd you go? Because we talked about brokering the day before, or Sunday. He said, dude, I did what you said and went straight to the shippers in Florida. No shit. And I did the search like on LinkedIn. I got the picture of the guy I was looking for. You know what the dumbest thing? His name was Christian. He said, he was telling me this. He said, I was in the place getting a tour, and Jared, the guy I was looking for, walked right past me. And I remembered his picture, and I was too stupid to stop him and interrupt him and shake his hand and tell him I'm here to meet him. Like, walk right past him. It's just the odds. How do you not know that's going to happen? Because when you're making phone calls, that's what you're doing. You're looking for that guy. When you're going in person, you're looking for that guy. All you're doing is research until you get the guy. But still, the problem in an industry is, what do I do with it when I get it?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
that's the scary part.
Or a lot of things I've been getting too, Shaggy. Once I get it, what if I'm like with this comment we have here? You know, trying to build a good relationship with the shippers are rough, right? So once I do get a hold, they're shopping for a bargain basement price.
Yeah.
So
you really think they're shopping for a bargain, or you don't know enough information that you didn't sell them enough on what you could do, and you didn't understand their lanes before you started? Because if you were more prepared with their lanes and could find their lanes, you would have went in solving their problems in the first place instead of shopping. And a lot of times when they're shopping, I found out they're just playing for that cheapest guy to see if you even made what you're worth. Because if you're dumb enough to take them the cheapest rates back in the first place, you know, they're kind of thinking you're an idiot a little bit, right?
Yeah, if you can at least be in the ballpark of where their other 3 to 5 carriers are, and I'm not saying you have to be.
There's always the market rate, right?
Yeah, if you can be close to the market rate. I think something with this one personally, you know, they say they're always looking for bargain basement prices. You know, sometimes shippers aren't the best for you.
No.
You know,
it's not even the shippers. What about the commodities? Like when you're doing produce or potatoes or chicken, right? They sell out in lumber. If you're doing those type customers, that's what you get.
Yeah. Yeah. You become a commodity.
Like it too. They got the rate on it. The rates always come on it, and they're like, that's what you get. You're like, so you're that guy that got a customer, and you're like, I'm the transparent, only take 10% type guy. I call the carrier up, tell them what the customer's paying, tell them I'm a legit guy. I'm only putting 10% on top of it. And then I get the load, the tender comes to me, and the carrier fucks me. And I'm only got 10% on the top, and I have to give 20% to the next guy. It's like, well, you should have learned the market and done your numbers a little better, right?
Yeah, you definitely, we walk a weird line as an industry of being considered a commodity, right? And when you look at it that way, I think you become that way in my mind. So you've got to look at it and go, how do I add more value to this guy? How do I give him more trust? Be in the ballpark. You don't have to be the lowest guy. They really want service, good quality billing. They want good quality customer service. They want to talk to people. And I think that's really important that you understand that we're not a commodity. But if you start looking at yourself that way, you're gonna go there real quick.
Remember what Frank said? Frank said in the very first time of like 5-7 years ago when we started teaching in our first videos, when we used to bring people on and do the Wednesday night thing. Frank always said, remember, it doesn't matter if you look like me. It doesn't matter if you look like Jared. It doesn't matter if you look like Nate or you talk any different than any of us three. When that person's on the phone or you're in front of them, if they don't like you and you remind them of their fucked up cousin Jimmy, and then you lie to them and you can't back it up, you're already done before you start, right?
Honestly, you hit it on the head. I mean, you totally.
Frank said it forever, right? It's not about it. It's about, one, understanding what you're offering, having a product to offer. Number two, being able to represent yourself to get them to like you, because if they don't like you, they ain't working with you. You talk all the smack you want, right?
Yeah. Honestly, it's so important that you really look at how you build relationships, why you build relationships, and then how do you nurture those relationships? Because it's so important that it's everything. It's
all sides.
It's how Frank built his entire business.
Yeah, it's the why. It's the why, right? Trucking, dispatching, And then why is the brokerage so important? People are all confused. They think they're all crooks and they're not. It's a tool.
Yeah. Hey, if you were going to give, obviously we got quite a few people on. If you were going to give them all a challenge next week, we got 5 working days next week. It's a good week. We're going to run into Memorial Day here.
We're not this weekend. We should start this weekend. We should be on eCARRIERCHECK this weekend, right?
Yeah.
What is your question? Sorry, I didn't interrupt. Go ahead.
Well, the question that I'd like you to answer for everybody is, what should they do next week to develop better relationships? Obviously, eCARRIERCHECK helps, but what does it look like? What's the day-to-day? How do you build relationships? And really,
if I was a broker, my goal would be to set a daily goal of, if I was a broker, to try to find 30 new prospects a day that would potentially, and the only prospects I'd be looking for are the ones. So at the same time, we've talked about, I even wrote it up in that sheet. Every day, my goal would be finding more assets that are relationship based every day that need a salesperson. Not a client to pull freight. They need a salesperson. They're giving your trailers, they're giving your equipment to move the product. But if you don't understand the customers, you're not going to get the carriers.
Yeah.
Number 2. And then if you're a carrier, my job would be, in this market, stop running all over the place. Pick your hometown where you live, draw a 150-mile circle around it. Pick, no matter what part of the United States you live in, pick 1 to 3 to 4 or 5 cities that are less than 300 miles away, because there's 2 products that we like. One is where we run 2,000 miles or less a week, but we still make $7,000, $8,000. And the other product is where we run 3,000 miles, either regional or over the road, right? Well, I'm not an over the road kind of guy, so I'm the regional guy. So I'm that 500 miles to stay at home, right? And because I want to hire people where I live, I want to sell freight where I live, and I want to work where I live. Everything else is a broker, right?
Yeah.
To other people. And that's a whole other level, because then you got it. But so what I would be doing, and if I was a carrier, I would get in those 3 cities, and I would use both, because I'm a firm believer in my 18 years of business that more people use software to find trucks than to post loads.
Well, that's an interesting statement right there. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, just soak that in for a sec. That's a really interesting statement.
And so the question is, on the weekend, I know we only have so much free time. Well, you already make the excuses you can't do it during the week. So spend 4 or 5 hours on eCARRIERCHECK or the load board and post. The load board is not for searching for loads. It's for telling all the people like Schwan what I have available. If you're telling people what you have available today and tomorrow and not weeks at a time out, you're never going to get volume and you're never going to get anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, so what I'm saying is build the inbound instead of being outbound, right?
Yeah.
Build the inbound on the product that you want, and don't change what you're doing because you got to pay your bills. But can't you add to it, build it, and then come back to it?
Yeah.
Number 2, learn, if you're a carrier, learn, and you have more than one truck, get with Jared and Nate or me and learn why the brokerage is important. Not to just be a broker, to be able to leverage yourself. So when you walk into a customer and they say, how many trucks do you have? You can say, well, I only have 4. I'm growing. But because of my previous customers that needed more work from me than what I can handle, my wife runs the brokerage, and we have 10 or 15 other carriers with volume that work with us too because of our other customer, and we could service you that way on your volume.
Wow. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But besides all that, that's all irrelevant. That's further down. He said right now, guys, you're already sitting. You're already waiting for another load. So think about where you're going to be running that first, second load next week if you're pre-planned and that you're pre-planning. Get on eCARRIERCHECK. Look up the location where those loads are delivering and find 5 or 6 people. They're always there. You already drive by these guys. You already go in these receivers. You don't even have this little fucking notebook next to you writing down names that are loaded in your trucks. Start taking down names. Start taking down MC numbers of trucking companies the same size as you that are delivering these places. Start taking down this stuff during the week before. Bring it back to where you're at, research them, and drop off business cards. Does it really take that much time for you to stop at 3 locations that have the same type trailers, walk in a shipping door with your fucking truck outside, and hand them a card, say, hey, I'm always in this area, I'm available, we have more than one truck, we have a logistics side too, I'd love to work with you, here's my card?
Yeah. Yeah, that you really hit it on the head. The people, if you guys can do homework, if you can look by, if you're a
We don't
carrier,
want to. This is why we only work with the serious, right?
yeah, if you're a carrier and you keep seeing loads that you really want, hey, I really want to take these loads going up here, but I've never actually done any work out of there. Do your homework, find some shippers, and start to make calls and say, hey, I'm going to be out there every Thursday, Friday. Make calls, pick up the phone, change
Weirdest
your
thing. It's the weirdest thing. All you have to do is go to all these load boards. Like Schwann's probably got their own load board too by now. You know what I mean? Where they post our emails they send out. All these load boards, all these softwares. You're like, stop looking at today and tomorrow and look for 30 to 60 days out. Stop answering the call from brokers or call brokers and thinking of one load. As every time you talk to them, say, how many of these do you have? How often? Is this the only lane? And don't be scared because you're like, oh no, Jared's going to call me. Jared's going to call me and he's going to ask me for a load and I'm going to offend him because I don't take the one he got, but I asked him about the rest of them. Oh my God. We got questions. Somebody said answer the question, please. Which one?
I think he was talking about the question that I asked. I think he answered it well. Doing the homework, going out and start to build those relationships. You can honestly, I know for a fact that you can get 10% more out of your week. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And if you add 10% more to your week, you're going to start building relationships. You become what you focus, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to focus on building new clients, if you want to focus on building your business, you're going to start to do those things because you're focusing on it, right?
But the problem still is a one truck guy. He's got this mindset. These 1-3 truck guys, they're like, well, why would I do all that when I can't? I got no more trucks to take care of it. That's not a. Don't be yelling on fucking Facebook because of transparency and brokers are robbing you because you don't have a plan and you're not doing it yourself. Get off your ass and fucking do some work.
Right. I love it. I love it. Shaggy, you brought the house today. We went 50 minutes. You brought the house. You bring so much value. How do people get a hold of you, Shaggy? Because you're really
I put my cell phone number right there by my name just so people that stop asking because we already got it rolling in the chat.
Yeah,
So I have it right there by my name on the screen. Just call me. Like I'm the only guy, like probably for the last 13 years that does mentoring and training that can honestly say there is no office phone in my office anywhere but that cell phone.
love that.
You guys
Shaggy.
do that? Like you available 7 days a week where you answer while you're at your soccer game and all that?
I love that. No, we don't. We don't.
You know what I mean? I do. So I can answer Antonio's question. So like when these people are like, well, you said to do that, well, let's do it. Like call me, let's do the work, just like you guys do. If anybody's having trouble with sales calls and they don't watch you two numbnuts doing it, Wiggly, don't make no excuses because it's the same process. There's no magic to it. It's doing it over and over and over and sending the emails. That's why trucking companies fail before I go, because they're always looking at the day and tomorrow. They always post everywhere. They never post more than zone 1, 2, and 3. People call, they're mad because they tell them about stuff they don't want, or it's retards on the phone that can't even speak truckadese and they're mad about it. You're the one that puts yourself in that boat. You're the one listening to people that say they won't use you in 90 days, because I can tell you, if I call Schwann and tell them that I'm looking for volume on a load that they have volume and I'm less than 90 days and I speak truckadese like I'm not an idiot, they're going to waive the new authority part and set me up like a crazy and test me out. You like, it's so amazing how many people like are like, well, we call people and the first thing we ask is, will you guys use this when we're new? Who said you had to do that?
Right. I agree.
Brandon.
I agree.
Maybe for the next show.
Shaggy, you're a rock star. I really think that consistency compounds. And I think, honestly, if you're going to do anything, consistency compounds in your day-to-day and your calls and your emails and all that. Nate, obviously, eCARRIERCHECK is truly one of the most remarkable sourcing platforms. Obviously, tell us how people can look at it. And then how do, what do we do? Our ultimate goal is to grow people.
I think the one thing that should put everyone at ease is, eCARRIERCHECK was built, from a freight broker point of view, Jared. So he understood everything you guys are going through, or most of it, right?
Yeah.
So, keep that in mind while you're looking at these leads on eCARRIERCHECK and building relationships. But go to eCARRIERCHECK.com, schedule a demo, join Shaggy's groups. I mean, he's live every day. It's good, free information. if you can't make it to TA or any of those conferences,
Well, don't join if you don't like your feelings hurt. You know what I mean? Because I'm very.
But hey, here's the thing: you keep it real, Shaggy. People need that.
Hey, I got baptized on Easter, and I'm trying to go more churchinese instead of truckinese. It's just the stupid stuff out here. It's horrible, man. It's like come on. Like, how the hell did you even get here? Where was your thought process? Are you guys that crazy? You give money away and you want to live like that? Like, what was your plan? Are you guys really? I mean, come on. It's a trucking industry. Everybody's worth $1 million. They're going to sue you in last minute. Brokers got claims. Everybody's got claims. How did you leave your previous career and think it was going to be like?
Oh my gosh. Shaggy, thanks again.
I love it.
Definitely reach out to his page. You know, him and Frank they're great people. They're awesome. So
Yeah.
check it out. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Next week we were going to be doing live again.
Hey, did all my demo guys tell you that to say hi this week? The ones I sent in there, did they give you hell? I try to give them tips to give you a hard time in there, but I don't think they do it.
No.
I love it.
Hey, thanks again, Shaggy.
Shaggy, take care, man. Later.
See you guys. Have a